Welcome to Walking Tour of Italy, a podcast dedicated to bringing you a new adventure somewhere in Italy with every episode. Each week we'll travel to a different destination, from ancient ruins and stunning gardens to fascinating cities, historic landmarks, and hidden gems tucked away across this incredible country. If you're gearing up for your own trip, head over to northstartravelers.com, where you'll find gear recommendations to help you travel smarter, plus a full list of our other podcast shows covering destinations around the world. If you love discovering new places and planning your next adventure, follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leaving a positive review goes a long way in helping others find it. Now let's explore Italy. You are standing at the edge of one of northern Italy's most overlooked treasures. Below you, the Piave River cuts its ancient path through a deep valley. Above you, above everything, the jagged white teeth of the Dolomites tear into the sky, close enough to feel like they belong to the city itself. Welcome to Belluno. Most people who know this name know it because of the mountains around it. The Dolomites are, after all, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and Belluno is their gateway. But the city itself, perched on a narrow hill spur at the confluence of the Piave and the smaller Ardo stream, has a story that stretches back more than 2,000 years. And today, you are going to walk through every chapter of it. You are starting here at the Piazza dei Martiri, the Square of the Martyrs, which is Belluno's wide, gracious main square. It was not always called this. For centuries, it was known simply as Campitello, an open ground beyond the old city walls where markets were held, tournaments were staged, and the daily rhythms of mountain life played out. The name changed on the 3rd of June, 1945, to honor 4 local partisans who were hanged here by occupying forces during the Second World War. Their sacrifice is remembered every year, and their presence, the weight of what happened here, is something you carry quietly through the rest of the walk. The square itself is lovely, lined with porticoed Renaissance buildings, many of them now housing cafes and shops. It has the unhurried feel of a place that has seen enough of history to know there is no rush. On a warm morning, before the heat settles in, this is one of the best places in the Veneto to simply sit with a coffee and watch life pass. If you have a chance to come on a Saturday, a traditional market fills the square with local producers, cheeses, cured meats, mountain honey, and those wonderfully impractical hats that somehow only look right in the Dolomites. Walk now toward the old city center, passing through the Porta Dante. This elegant gate was built in 1865. Not in the Middle Ages, which its stone arch might suggest, but in the year that Belluno was finally freed from Habsburg rule and reunited with the young Kingdom of Italy. It replaced an older gate from the 17th century, and the name is a nod not to the poet, but to the spirit of Italian cultural unity that the Risorgimento carried with it. Notice the lion on the older gate just ahead. That is the Lion of St. Mark, the ancient symbol of the Venetian Republic, which ruled this city for nearly 4 centuries. Even in stone, empires leave their mark. You are now inside the historic center, the old heart of the city, and the feel of the streets changes immediately. The paving underfoot is smooth and worn, the buildings close together, their facades a warm ochre and cream. This is Roman ground. The city was founded here. The Romans drove a settlement into this ridge between 220 and 200 BC, though people had already been living in these hills for centuries before that. Paleo-Venetian and Celtic communities knew this confluence of rivers, knew how defensible this narrow spur of land was, how the mountains gave both shelter and a clear view of anyone approaching. You are walking through the Via Mezzaterra now, the old middle road of the historic center, and if you look at the foundations of some of the buildings, you will see that the Romans were not just settlers here. They built roads. One of them, the Via Claudia Augusta, passed through the Belluno Valley on its way from the Po Plain to the Danube, and stretches of that ancient road can still be seen in the countryside around the city. The route carried soldiers, merchants, ideas, and the heavy, quiet presence of an empire that considered these mountains simply the northern edge of the known world. Turn right here, and you will find yourself approaching the Porta Dohona, one of the 3 surviving ancient gates of Belluno, and the most impressive. It stands on the Piazza Vittorio Emanuele, and the first thing you notice is that Venetian lion again, watching from above the arch. This gate was the city's main eastern entrance, and for centuries everything and everyone who mattered passed through it. The stone is weathered but solid, Run your hand along it if you like. The inner arch dates from the 11th century, the outer from the 14th. It has been here through plagues, wars, and the slow tidal shifts of empires. Step through, and you are heading now toward what the locals simply call the Torre Civica, the civic tower, which rises above the rooftops ahead of you. This 12th century tower is all that remains of the castle that once anchored the city's defenses. The rest was torn down over the centuries, its stones repurposed into the elegant palazzos that now surround it. But the tower survived, and it still keeps watch. On clear days, and there are many in Belluno, the view from the top stretches across the valley to peaks that seem impossibly close. If you are not in a hurry, it is worth the climb. Beside the tower stands the Palazzo della Crepadona, a 16th century building that now hosts some of the region's most significant art exhibitions. It has a quiet, dignified presence, the kind of building that knows it has been useful for a long time and expects to go on being useful. You are approaching the cathedral square now, the Piazza del Duomo, and the change in atmosphere is immediate. This is older ground, more formal, more layered. The square is surrounded by grand palazzos, each one with a story to tell, but your eyes will go first to the cathedral itself, the Basilica of San Martino, which occupies the southern edge like a statement. The history of this building is almost comically Italian in its complexity. A church has stood on this spot since at least 548 AD, and that early structure was already probably built on something older. Over the centuries, it burned, was rebuilt, burned again, and each time rose back with a little more ambition. The version you see today was begun in 1517, designed by the Venetian sculptor and architect Tullio Lombardo, and it took the better part of 2 centuries to complete. The facade is relatively plain, a pale stone front with Gothic windows and a rich baroque portal that was added later, but it is the bell tower that will stop you in your tracks. That tower, baroque, dramatic, and topped by a bronze angel, was added in the mid-1700s. The angel itself is attributed to the sculptor Andrea Brustolone, a name you will hear more than once in Belluno. He was born here in this city in 1662, and he became one of the great masters of Baroque wood sculpture. His work is everywhere in Belluno, in the cathedral, in the churches, in the palazzo collections, and even Venetians who considered the mainland a lesser place recognized that something extraordinary had grown up in these mountains. Go inside. The interior is calm and cool, the light filtering through the high windows in long shafts. Take a moment to let your eyes adjust. Then look for the paintings, works by Jacopo Bassano, Palma the Younger, and Cesare Vecellio, who was a cousin of the great Titian. The cathedral has been a repository of Venetian art for 5 centuries, and each painting carries the particular golden warmth that the Venetians brought to everything they touched. Before you leave the square, look across to the Palazzo dei Rettori. This is the most imposing building in the city, and it was built in the 15th century to house the Venetian governors, the Rettori, who administered the city on behalf of the Serenissima. Its facade is studded with coats of arms and marble plaques, each one recording a rector who served here, a kind of stone bureaucracy that somehow manages to be beautiful. The building has the elegant confidence of a place that knows power and has made peace with it. Beside it, look for the older Palazzo di Giustizia and the quiet corner where a medieval baptistry still stands, its 17th century carved font showing the figure of St. John the Baptist, the detail precise, the stone worn smooth by centuries of ceremony. Wander now through the smaller lanes behind the cathedral, the ones that most visitors miss. This is where the city exhales. You will find the Church of San Pietro here, another Baroque masterpiece, with 2 extraordinary wooden altarpieces carved by that same Belluno-born sculptor whose name you keep encountering. The pieces, one depicting the death of St. Francis, the other the crucifixion, are among the finest examples of Baroque woodwork in the Veneto. The level of detail is almost unreasonable. Every fold of fabric, every expression of anguish or grief, rendered in chestnut wood with the patience of someone who believed they were not making art but recording truth. From here, make your way down toward the Piazza delle Erbe, the old herb market, which still hosts a small daily market where locals shop for vegetables and flowers. It is unpretentious and alive in the way that markets always are, and it smells, on a good morning, of cut herbs and the particular damp stone scent of old Italian towns. Sit here if you find a moment. The square is off the main tourist circuit, and you are more likely to have it to yourself. The walk now brings you toward the edge of the city, to the Porta Rugo, the old southern gate that once connected the city to its river port at Borgo Piave below. This is where the Emperor Maximilian of Habsburg passed in 1509 on his way through a city that was then already 5 years into Venetian governance. Two empires, both claiming this mountain gateway, and the city itself, as it always had, simply enduring. From this gate, you can look down the valley. The Piave stretches away in both directions, silver and wide, and beyond it, the lower ridges give way to the great Dolomitic walls that define this landscape. In the First World War, those mountains were the front line. The Dolomitic front, where Italian and Austrian soldiers fought in conditions of extraordinary cold and danger, and where the scars of the trenches can still be found if you know where to look. Belluno was close enough to the fighting to know what it meant, and far enough from it, most days, to survive. This is the moment to pause. You are standing at the old edge of the city at a gate that has been here for centuries, looking out over a valley that has known every kind of empire, every kind of war, and every kind of peace. The mountains behind you are older than all of it. They were here before the Romans, before the Venetians, before the Habsburgs and the Risorgimento, and the great wars of the 20th century. They will be here after everything else has changed again. Belluno is a city that rewards exactly this kind of attention. It does not perform for you. It does not need to. It simply exists with its Roman bones and its Venetian polish and its alpine light in one of the most beautiful settings in all of Italy. And if most travelers speed through it on their way to the ski slopes or the high peaks beyond, that is perhaps the city's deepest secret, that it has kept itself for those willing to slow down and look. Before you head out, a few things worth knowing while you are in the area. The Palazzo Fulci's, a recently renovated museum just a short walk from the cathedral square, houses one of the finest collections in the Veneto, with 5 floors of art, porcelain, and bronze Renaissance statues, all set inside a palazzo whose ceilings and wooden floors are themselves works of art. Allow at least an hour, and more if you have it. The museum is closed on Mondays. If you come to Belluno in the morning and find the historic center quiet, that is by design. This city lives at a mountain pace, and the afternoon is when it opens up. The Saturday market in the Piazza dei Martiri is a local institution, and if you can time your visit around it, you should. For dinner, the taverna near Piazzale Cesare Battisti is one of those reliably excellent places that every Italian town seems to have and never advertises. Wooden beams, frescoed walls, roast lamb with polenta, and a house wine that is better than it has any right to be. Bistro Bembo, a few minutes walk away, is the kind of contemporary spot where the food is serious but the atmosphere is not, and where the locals actually eat. And if you want pizza done properly, with a slow-rise dough and toppings that respect the tradition, La Buca on Via Sebastiano Ricci is the answer. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Before you go, a few quick things. Subscribe so you never miss a destination, leave us a positive review to help others find the show, and share this episode with someone who loves exploring Italy. And if you're hungry for more adventures beyond Italy, visit northstartravelers.com to explore our other podcast shows and browse gear recommendations for wherever your next journey takes you. Your support means the world and keeps these adventures coming. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next walk.